Hi friends, so today we'll discuss up the diarrheal diseases. Okay, and in this we mostly have the Harrison approach, and mostly it will be dealing up with the clinical scenario and all that. How does what are the various organisms involved and how does they present off? So basically, this is a long topic, diarrheal diseases and all. Like you need patience for going through, but one thing is of sure, if you go through this properly, then most of your questions in and around the diarrheal ones will be solved up. Okay, so first of all, without wasting time, let's start up. The firstly we'll talk about the definition. What is diarrhea? So diarrhea is basically passage of 3 or more than 3 loose stools, okay, per day, obviously in excess of normal habits of that particular person. Okay, so that is what is termed as diarrhea. Then there is another term termed as gastroenteritis. Itis means inflammation, that you know. So gastroenteritis is also termed as infectious diarrhea. And what is inflamed up here? It is a inflammation of obviously stomach, that is the mucous membrane of it, the mucous membrane of stomach, and as the name suggests, the enteric, so that is the intestine is also involved up. So mucous membrane stomach and intestine, that is inflamed up because of some infection. Okay, and what you get in this inflammation results in what? Actually, this results in diarrhea only, the above thing. Along with that, this can also be present, that is vomiting, and the patient will have this also, that is pain abdomen. Okay, so this is diarrhea and this is gastroenteritis. Then the third point here is regarding the dysentery or dysentery, that is diarrhea with increased blood and mucus flakes in the stool. That is what is termed as dysentery. Okay, and in this also, you know that blood is coming up, mucus is coming up, so obviously it is a sort of infection and in which fever is obvious. Other one, again in this side abdominal pain will be there, and tenesmus. And what is tenesmus? The feeling of incomplete defecation, that is termed as tenesmus. Okay, urge is there, but there is a feeling of incomplete defecation. So this is what is termed as dysentery. Then one particular term is there, they all are related up as such, food poisoning. So food poisoning is an illness which is acquired by eating up contaminated food and water. Okay, so this is an illness which is acquired by eating and drinking contaminated food and water. Okay, so this is what is termed as food poisoning, and obviously it is due to what? Due to the organisms also, or due to the toxins produced by them. Okay, so first of all, these 4 important words, they should be like clear to you, and after that only you should able to go further. Okay, now after that, coming to a table of Harrison, that is this particular one. You can see up this particular table. Okay, in this particular table they have shown up that what are the various organisms involved up and which type of clinical manifestations they can happen in a acute GI illness. Got my point? That which particular pathogens are involved, of bacteria, virus or parasite. Fine. So let's start up regarding them. The firstly, we'll talk about the mechanism involved. So remember, the mechanisms are what? The mechanisms is some are non-inflammatory type of diarrhea, some is inflammatory type of diarrhea, and one particular variety is there that is termed as what? Penetrating one. So these particular types of diarrhea, they are caused by which particular organisms? That is what is there in this table. The non-inflammatory one affects of which particular location, inflammatory one mostly affects of which particular location, and penetrating one affects of which particular location. What are the organisms involved in that? Got my point? So this was a question in the JIPMER also recently, that non-inflammatory one affects of which particular one. So remember, proximal small bowel, that is being involved mostly here. And which type of presentation present? Watery diarrhea. Okay. Now in the inflammatory one, it is a colon which is involved up, or distal small bowel. And what is distal small bowel here? So that is the jejunum and ileum. Got my point? And in this also, distal small bowel is involved in penetrating wine. Okay, we'll discuss what about them. Okay, so in the inflammatory one, this is dysentery type, just now blood and mucus stuff. Okay, and this is characteristic of what? Enteric fever. Remember, this is characteristic of what? Enteric fever. That is the penetrating one. Now, talking about the other stuff here, that is the stool findings. What you will find in the stools here. So in the stool findings, we are talking about what? First of all, you need to remember that. First of all, you need to remember that we are talking about non-inflammatory, inflammatory, and penetrating one. And we are talking about now the stool findings of this particular one in the inflammatory one. So, first one is non-inflammatory. So non-inflammatory one. So obviously there is no inflammation. So obviously there is what? No fecal leukocytes. And there will be no increase in what? Fecal lactoferrin. If leukocytes are not there, then obviously the fecal lactoferrin will not increase. So the first, in the non-inflammatory form of diarrhea, that is this particular finding you find. Okay. Then the second one is what? Second one is inflammatory, that you know. Okay. And you know that this particular one, inflammatory one, the inflammation is there. Obviously if inflammation is there, then what you will observe? Fecal leukocytes. And because of that, there will be fecal lactoferrin, which you can detect up. Fine. And in the penetrating one, what you have? The fecal mononuclear leukocytes. Okay, what you have in that? Fecal mononuclear leukocytes. Again, I'm telling you, three types: non-inflammatory, inflammatory, and fecal. This penetrating one. In the non-inflammatory one, you have this particular thing: no fecal leukocytes. In this, leukocytes are present, and in this, what presents? Fecal mononuclear leukocytes. Now, coming to the examples of these particular ones. That what are the examples of this particular one? Now, talking about the example here, guys. So, talking about the examples, that is a big list here regarding the example stuff. So, we'll just go through it once, that which are the organisms involved up in which particular form of diarrhea. So, firstly, you have non-inflammatory form of diarrhea. So, remember in this, Vibrio cholerae. First question. That Vibrio cholerae, the cholera, is inflammatory or non-inflammatory? This is a non-inflammatory form of diarrhea. Then, the brother of it, and the brother of it is what? Enterotoxigenic E. coli. The same mechanism is there of the enterotoxigenic E. coli as of Vibrio cholerae. Remember this particular thing also. Okay. Besides that, you already know that enterotoxigenic E. coli, this particular one, it is having two types of toxins. One is labile toxin and one is stable toxin. Okay, we have talked about that. So in our lectures in the app and all, that Vibrio cholerae, enterotoxin E. coli, they are the involved up in which form of diarrhea? Non-inflammatory form of diarrhea. One thing. Then you have this enteroaggregative E. coli. This is also associated with what? Non-inflammatory one. Then you have Clostridium perfringens, which is also termed as what? Clostridium virchi. Bacillus cereus. Okay, Bacillus cereus. Your favorite Staph aureus is also non-inflammatory form of diarrhea. Remember that. Aeromonas, okay, Plesiomonas. These all are the brothers of Vibrio. Aeromonas and Plesiomonas. Then you have this Shigelloids, not exactly Shigella, Shigelloids. Remember that. That is also one. Then certain viruses, and which particular viruses? Like the rotavirus, like the norovirus, okay, some adenovirus, and obviously some of the parasites like Giardia lamblia, Cryptosporidium, Cyclospora, and Microsporidium. Okay, so guys, one thing is for sure that the bacteria are in plenty. Okay, along with that, the parasites are also there, and along with that, 2 viruses or 3 viruses are also involved up in this particular one. So if you go by like division wise, bacteria, parasite, virus, then it's very easy to remember up. The question here, if anybody asks about the question here, the question is this. Okay, the question is this, that in the Vibrio cholerae, the non-inflammatory form of diarrhea is seen. And the brother of it is what? Enterotoxigenic E. coli, in which also you have what? Non-inflammatory form of diarrhea. Okay. So Clostridium perfringens, this also is there. Bacillus cereus, this also is there. Staph aureus, the starting one. Aeromonas, Plesiomonas, the brothers of Vibrio. Shigelloids. Remember, this is not Shigella. It is Shigelloids. These 2 viruses, Rota and Noro, along with sometimes Adeno. They are there, which are involved in non-inflammatory one. And these particular parasites like Giardia lamblia, Cryptosporidium, Cyclospora, and Microsporidium. Can you tell me, guys, where you hear about these names? So these names are very common in those opportunistic infections of the HIV, and in them it causes what? Watery diarrhea. So the same thing is there in that watery diarrhea happens up in this non-inflammatory form of stuff. First thing. Okay. Now talking about those particular ones in which you will find the fecal leukocytes, and there is a blood and the mucus. Okay. For them, you need to remember that you have Shigella. So what we are talking about, guys, we are talking about the inflammatory form of diarrhea. Okay. And the organism responsible for that is what? Shigella, Salmonella. So they are the brother and sisters, Shigella, Salmonella. Campylobacter jejuni, their elder brother. So SSC, you remember this? SSC, Shigella, Salmonella, Campylobacter jejuni. These are the ones which involves up in the inflammatory form of diarrhea. Now, another particular fellow which is not properly seen in this particular picture, that is termed as enterohemorrhagic E. coli. Okay, this particular name is what? Enterohemorrhagic E. coli. So remember, enterohemorrhagic E. coli is causing a which type of diarrhea? Inflammatory form of diarrhea. And just now what we have heard, that enterotoxigenic and enteroaggregative, what they does? Non-inflammatory form of diarrhea. Got my point? So remember, enterohemorrhagic is there, which causes this inflammatory one. And as the name suggests, there is an invasion here. So enteroinvasive E. coli also associates with inflammatory form of diarrhea. Then Yersinia enterocolitica is the one which associates with this. Listeria monocytogenes. Guys, remember, Listeria monocytogenes can also cause inflammatory form of diarrhea. Okay. Vibrio parahemolyticus. Vibrio parahemolyticus is which type of Vibrio? It's a halophilic Vibrio. Remember that. So this associates with what? Inflammatory one. But Vibrio cholerae is what? Non-inflammatory one. Fine. Then Clostridium difficile, do you know that it associated with CDAD, Clostridium difficile associated diarrhea, okay, associated with antibiotic use and all. So this is also there in the inflammatory ones. Then you have this Hydrophila, that P. Shigelloids, this particular one. These are the less known fellows, but you just focus upon, basically the full name is Aeromonas, Hydrophila, and Plesiomonas Shigelloids. Okay, so don't go in that deep for you. It's not for there. Okay, you just remember 3 at least. That is SSC. That is the Shigella, Salmonella, Campylobacter jejuni. Okay. Along with that, you can remember this name of the protozoa. That is Entamoeba histolytica. And there is a rare variety of Klebsiella. We know pneumonia, but this is Oxytoca. Okay, so Klebsiella oxytoca associates with inflammatory form of diarrhea. So remember these all important ones regarding the inflammatory form of diarrhea. The important ones are what? SSC. Okay, and what is SSC? Shigella, Salmonella, Campylobacter jejuni, along with two particular fellows of E. coli, that is enterohemorrhagic and one is enteroinvasive. Got my point? Then the last one, if you remember up, was what? Penetrating type. Okay, penetrating form of diarrhea in which the layers are more penetrated up, the M cells they are penetrated up, and this happens to be in what? Typhoid fever, that is Salmonella typhi does it, and this particular one, Yersinia enterocolitica. Okay, so remember this name is here also and this name is here also. Okay, so with the colors I have made it fully confused up for your, but I suppose I could able to tell you that which one is non-inflammatory, which one is inflammatory. Okay, I just remove out. Okay, and I suppose I made myself clear that which one is inflammatory, which one is non-inflammatory, which one is penetrating one. First of all, this is what is the biggest confusion, that which one is inflammatory, which one is non-inflammatory, which one is penetrating. So if you go in a sequence, then it is very easy to remember. Firstly, you have to put up which fellows? Non-inflammatory ones. So these are non-inflammatory ones. I just write up NI. These are the inflammatory ones. I just write up I in front of them. And which involves of the distal small bowel, that is penetrating one. So this happens actually in what? It happens in the enteric fever caused by what? Salmonella typhi. And remember, Yersinia enterocolitica. This also involves in this penetrating variety. Got my point, guys? Now, besides this, you need to remember certain points now. Okay, you need to remember certain points now, that what are the various pathogenic mechanisms by which they does these all problems. Okay, what are the various pathogenic mechanisms by which they does all these problems. So the first important MCQ question is that what is the inoculum size for all these organisms which we have discussed just now. Okay, so this is the basic framework which I have given you: non-inflammatory, inflammatory, and the penetrating one. Now we'll talk about the inoculum size of certain bacteria and the protozoa, that how much is needed to cause the infection. Okay, so remember guys, they say that with the Shigella, okay, and for this particular fellow which was there in the picture, EHEC, enterohemorrhagic E. coli, can you tell me guys, these fellows, they were causing what? Inflammatory or non-inflammatory type? So this is inflammatory form of diarrhea they were causing up. Okay, along with them, you remember up, Giardia is there. Okay, along with them, the Giardia is there, and Entamoeba is there. Entamoeba. These four fellows, Shigella, EHEC, Giardia, and Entamoeba, they need just 10 to 100 bacteria or the same number of cysts. If this particular thing is ingested up, the infection will happen. First thing. Second one is regarding the Vibrio cholerae. Okay, I'm giving example. Okay, that is, firstly we have given example of Shigella and all. Now, so we can put like A and we can put like B. Fine. So in the B, the Vibrio cholerae comes up, and Vibrio cholerae, you remember, 10 to the power 5 to 10 to the power 8 bacilli. Okay, how much? 10 to the power 5 to 10 to the power 8 bacilli. And how you'll remember this? Remember this V. This is Ruxolitinib 5, Roman 5, so 10 to the power 5. 10 to the power 5 to 10 to the power 8. Fine. Then Salmonella. This particular fellow, Salmonella. So for this, you remember up, the number is 10 to the power 3 to 10 to the power 5. And you can remember up by this S, it looks like a 5. So 5 is involved up. If you just able to come up nearby also, na, all regarding these all things, then you will able to do this particular question. So remember, the organism which needs a very less amount is whom? Shigella, EHEC, okay, Giardia, and Entamoeba. These are the ones which needs it like if you make up some mnemonic stuff, so examples, it make like examples, eggs, whatever you want to make up. Okay, so these particular eggs fellows or example fellows, what they have, they just need a very like normal amount, very like small, hardly 10 to 100 bacteria they can cause it. Vibrio cholerae, by this you remember 5, 10 to the power 5 to 10 to the power 8, and this salmonella also 5, you remember 10 to the power 3 to 10 to the power 5. So basically Vibrio needs a lot number of bacilli to cause infection, otherwise this can't cause the infection and all. Okay, so one thing is there, the inoculum size matters. Second one matters is the adherence. Okay, the adherence matters up, this particular thing adherence matters up, and this particular adherence, this can be due to the various factors. Two I will tell you just. For the Vibrio cholerae, you need to remember a name that is termed as toxin co-regulated pilus. Okay, toxin TCP, toxin co-regulated pilus. Remember guys, this is a question that which particular thing helps you to adhere up to the small intestine. The answer is toxin co-regulated pilus. And another fellow which you remember, that is ETEC, enterotoxigenic E. coli. This one is having a particular factor termed as what? CFA. And what is CFA? Colonization factor antigen. This is having what? Colonization factor antigen. Okay, colonization factor antigen. So this also you need to remember. They helps in adherence to the intestine. Now guys, you tell me, just for the revision sake, inflammatory, non-inflammatory. So these are non-inflammatory ones. Okay, these particular fellows are what? Non-inflammatory ones. Now, other one is the toxin production. Okay, the toxin production, the various particular fellows, they produce up 3 types of toxins. One is enterotoxins. Okay, one is enterotoxins, one is cytotoxins, and one is neurotoxins. So these are the 3 types of toxins. One is entero, one is cyto, and one is neuro. These enterotoxins does what? Obviously they lead to what? Watery diarrhea. As you can see that particular picture of Harrison, that particular chart of Harrison, the enterotoxins were then involved up in causing a what? Non-inflammatory form of diarrhea. So that's why it is watery diarrhea there. But the cytotoxins, they cause destruction of the mucosal cells. They cause destruction of mucosal cells. So obviously they will lead to what? Inflammatory diarrhea. That is the dysentery stuff. So they are responsible for what? Dysentery or dysentery, whatever you call it. And neurotoxins are involved up. They involve the CNS here, and obviously it lead to what? Vomiting. Okay. So these are the 3 important entities which are produced by various organisms. We'll talk about them, that which particular toxin and all is produced up. But just remember up, enterotoxins, cytotoxins and neurotoxins, they are there, which is being produced up, and that plays a role in this particular diarrheal episodes and all. Okay. After that, there is one more entity termed as invasion. Okay. Invasion, that is also one of the entities which you need to remember. Okay, by which the destruction of the intestinal epithelium and all that might be done. Okay, so invasion, with the help of cytotoxins, this invasion can be done. Okay, and they can penetrate up the various mucosal cells. Okay, they can penetrate up the various mucosal cells. So that also you need to remember in the invasion stuff. Okay, and mucosal cells, M cells, that is it. Now, talking about the various other factors which affect of the diarrheal episodes and all. So obviously they are like simple common sense ones, that if somebody's suppression happens up of the normal flora, obviously because of continuous antibiotic abuse, that fellow have suppressed of the normal flora. Okay, so that particular thing will be a favorable spot for causing the infection. First thing. Second one, in the host factors comes up, like suppose you are a chronic, like you take chronically particular medicine, antacids and all, Okay, you take those proton pump inhibitors every day for your acidity and all, so obviously you're making your environment prone for illness. Okay, because the acidic pH is a very good thing to avoid of these enteric infections, and that is being going off. So gastric acidity, if this gets neutralized because of any particular reason, you are taking medicine or by any other mechanism, this particular thing happens up, then you are prone to get infections more. Okay, now another one, because of the inhibition of the intestinal motility, and if the inhibition of the intestinal motility happens up, so the clearing of the organisms takes time. Okay, so that also is one of the stuff. Okay, now other than these all factors, one interesting aspect is there, guys, that those particular fellows which have the blood group O, okay, which have this particular blood group O, they are susceptible for the infections of certain organisms like Vibrio cholerae, okay, Vibrio cholerae, Shigella, E. coli of a particular type O157H7, okay, and a particular virus termed as what? Norovirus. So these, it is being written in Harrison, if a particular fellow is having the blood group O, it is prone to get more infections of Vibrio cholerae, Shigella, E. coli, O157H7, which is a EHEC, and this particular virus termed as what? Norovirus. Okay, so guys, remember all these points regarding the pathogenic mechanisms by which the diarrhea happens up. So here what we have discussed up two things here, that one is the types, non-inflammatory, inflammatory and penetrating one, and we have discussed up the various pathogenic mechanisms which are involved up in causing up the problem. Okay, so these are the various ones which are involved up. Now guys, we'll talk about the approach. Okay, we'll talk about the approach of this particular fellow, that how to approach up a person having these diarrhea, nausea or vomiting. So again, this is a chart of what? This is a chart of Harrison. Okay, and in this chart of Harrison, I like to tell you that there are various 1, 2, 3 and all, and I will try to tell you that what is what in this. So suppose a person approaches you with these particular features like diarrhea, nausea and vomiting. Okay, so obviously the first thing is you will look out for what? You will look out for the physical examination of that particular fellow. Okay, you will go out, that you will say that yes, I will do the physical examination of that particular one. And in the physical examination, what you will get, guys? You will get the signs of dehydration. Yes or no? You will get what? You will get the signs of dehydration. And as you know from the PSM knowledge or from the medicine knowledge, that various types of dehydration are there. One is mild dehydration, one is moderate dehydration, and one is severe dehydration. So mild dehydration, you all know in the pediatrics, or if it is like a second year fellow, they will be knowing up that the person will be having thirst, will be having a dry mouth, and obviously there will be a decreased urine output here. Fine. So that is the feature of mild dehydration. Whereas in the moderate dehydration, what happens? There is an orthostatic fall in the blood pressure. Okay, according to the posture, there is a fall in the blood pressure, and sunken eyes. That is a feature of this. And in the children, there is a sunken fontanelle also. Okay, if you see up, you will able to observe up the sunken fontanelle also. Then, what are the features of severe dehydration? So, answer is lethargy, inactiveness, feeble pulse, hypotension, and obviously the person can land up in what? Hypovolemic shock, the frank shock. Okay, So these are the various things you will find up on the physical examinations. What you will find? You will find the signs of dehydration. Again, I am telling up mild, moderate, and severe. So mild dehydration is what? Like thirst. There will be a decreased urine output, very important sign. And in the moderate dehydration, there will be an orthostatic fall in the blood pressure. Sunken eyes. In the infants, you will observe for the sunken pontillae. Okay. Besides that, there are signs of severe dehydration. You will have what? Lethargy, inactiveness, lethargy, feeble pulse, hypertension, and obviously the shock. Okay. So all these are there. Then after this particular thing, obviously you will give that particular fellow what? Nowadays, what is the life-saving stuff? You will give the oral rehydration therapy. That is nowadays done with what? ORS and all. Okay, so that we'll discuss later, that what is done. But you just as per to follow up this particular chart and all, you need to remember this particular observation, that you need to give ORS here. Fine. Now, after that, you assess the duration and the severity. We have just done what? You will ask the kitne din se, like duration, more than 1 day. Severity will see up. Obviously, severity, how you will observe the severity and all. Just now I told you, mild, moderate, severe. Okay, so that are there. Then, after this particular oral rehydration therapy and all, you will say this assessment you will do, and after that you take 2 steps, that whether this particular thing, like this acid duration and severity is there. So now what all you need to ask to that particular fellow. Okay, so what you need to ask to that particular fellow? So remember guys, you need to ask about various important factors to that particular one, that will tell you about the proper history taking it is actually, and you will able to know most of the things because of these particular ones. Okay, so what you will try to do here, you will try to obtain the history of that particular episode, and there's a beautiful chart in the Harrison, this one only, and according to that you have to go up. So I will like to tell you point wise that what is the meaning of these particular things. So the first thing here is guys, the duration they are telling up. Okay, so duration of the diarrhea. If the diarrhea duration is more than 2 weeks, okay, if the diarrhea duration is more than 2 weeks, it is termed as what? Chronic diarrhea. This is termed as what? Chronic one, because the duration is more than 2 weeks. First point. Okay, then the second point, you will ask about the history of fever, and if the history of fever is there, this particular thing suggests what? It suggests the invasive disease. Okay, invasion have happened up, that's why only the infection happens and the fever happens. So this suggests what? Invasive disease. Okay, obviously it is not so that fever is the only feature of all this, but yes, it is a supportive feature here. So fever means invasive disease have happened up. Okay, now the third is, what is the appearance of the stool? Okay, how does the stool looks like? If the stool is having blood and mucus, guys, you should tell me now, inflammatory, non-inflammatory? It is inflammatory form of diarrhea, and this suggests what? That they have caused ulceration also. Okay, so there is a ulceration of the large bowel, and because of this only, this blood or mucus, it is coming up in the stool. Important point. Okay, so this also you need to, appearance of stool is an important entity which you need to remember in there. Now after these important points, talking about further regarding the other points here, the other points are what? The other points are the fourth point. The fourth point is frequency of bowel movements. You will ask regarding the frequency, and the frequency of the bowel movements suggest what? That it will tell that in how much time this particular dehydration which we talked about now it have come. So frequency of bowel movements, I just told you more than 3 episodes of loose stool, so that particular thing determines what, yes, it's a diarrhea. Okay, so this particular frequency, it will tell about the dehydration status, that is mild, moderate and all, how much time that fellow have gone to the toilet. So that will be told by this particular one. Okay, frequency of bowel movements. Then the abdominal pain. Abdominal pain obviously suggests what? That abdominal pain obviously suggests what? That this is the infection of Shigella, Campylobacter. All these fellows, they characteristically associates with abdominal pain. Shigella and Campylobacter. Okay, so this particular thing also important entity to remember. The abdominal pain associates with Shigella and Campylobacter infection. Okay, so I could able to tell up all things on this chart. That's why I'm removing up again and again. This particular thing also you can remember up. Now, other than that, if you remember, we have talked about tenesmus before, the feeling of incomplete defecation. Okay, so this particular thing, tenesmus, this happens because of proctitis, inflammation. Okay, so proctitis is involved up in this particular one, and this happens in what? This happens in either the shigellosis or amoebiasis. Shigellosis or amoebiasis, that is, this tenesmus is an important entity associated with that. Now talking about the vomiting stuff. The vomiting stuff means what? That there is a neurotoxin involved up. Just now we have done that some particular like this vomiting feature suggests that this is involved up, the neurotoxin, and this happens to be in whom? The Staph aureus and the Bacillus cereus. So this also is an important entity to be remembered. That tenesmus associated with proctitis, and this particular vomiting and all, they associate with Staph aureus and Bacillus cereus. Okay. Now, what is this 8th point telling us? This particular 8th point is telling us that common source. Look out for the common source. Ki if only one person is having these features, or like other family members are also having the same features. This suggests that a common source of food is being eaten by them and they all land up with food poisoning. So common source is important in that aspect. Antibiotic use, you know guys, that is what is the reason of CDAD, that is the Clostridium difficile associated diarrhea. So that is like usage of these clindamycins, usage of this 3rd generation cephalosporins more, that lands up the fellow with this particular CDAD. And what is CDAD? Clostridium difficile associated diarrhea. So this already you know, the Clostridium difficile associated diarrhea, that associates with this particular antibiotic use. And the travel history. And travel history suggests what, guys? The travel history suggests the traveler's diarrhea. Okay, another entity done by what? Enterotoxigenic E. coli. So that is what is termed as traveler's diarrhea. Important. Fine. So these factors which I have discussed up to with you, like one by one. Duration, that is more than 2 weeks chronic. Fever, that suggests up that invasion has happened up. So that is by the Shigella and all that stuff. Fine. Appearance of stool, bloody and mucus stuff. Frequency of bowel movements, how much time that fellow have gone up and how much water is being lost and all. Dehydration status. Abdominal pain, gastroenteritis episodes and all that particular one, that is being told by this abdominal pain stuff. Okay, tenesmus, incomplete proctitis, incomplete defecation, that happens due to what? Proctitis, and that is all again being done by what? Shigellosis and amoebiasis. Vomiting means neurotoxins involved up, that is the Staph aureus and Bacillus cereus. Common source, you have to look out for the food which have done this. Antibiotic use, that is CDAD. And the travel, the traveler's history, that the person have come from a developed country to a developing country and develops a traveler's diarrhea. Got the point? So need to remember this also. Okay guys, after that what you will do, you obtain the stool for the examination, and what you look out in that stool, obviously you will look out for the WBC, that is the leukocytes, just now we have told her. And if it is like more than 10 days all these things are happening up, look out for the parasites and all. Okay, look out for the parasitic infection can also be there. Now, after this all things happens up, then what? Then you can divide this particular thing into three types again. And three types is what? The three types is in that particular sort. That is, we have just discussed up in the starting the table: non-inflammatory, inflammatory, and examine stool for parasites. Okay, this particular thing. Now, non-inflammatory means no WBC. Inflammatory means WBC, examine stool for parasite. You know that. How we'll do that. Okay. So basically, you prepare a wet mount and you can easily observe the stool under the microscope, and you can easily find out the various eggs of the parasites or the various cysts and all that. Okay. Now, if the non-inflammatory type, so these are the table numbers given in the Harrison and all, and that will be discussed later. So you will like continue the symptomatic therapy in this particular one. But in the inflammatory WBC stuff, in which the inflammatory form of diarrhea is there, they say that it is not used to go for empirical therapy. You better go for culture. And culture for what? These three important fellows, that is SSC, that is Shigella, Salmonella, Campylobacter jejuni. And if at all that is associated with nosocomial diarrhea because of the hospital acquired and stuff, or antibiotic use or prolonged antibiotic use, so obviously you will look out for the which particular thing, for the toxin of the Clostridium difficile. Okay, so that particular toxin you will observe, you will try to find it by the ELISA and all. Okay, and obviously in this side you will when you see the eggs or cyst and all, and you will go for the specific anti-parasitic therapy. You will go for what? Specific anti-parasitic therapy. So guys, this particular chart definitely helps you to remember a lot of things at one go, and these particular things are what, like a person comes up all this, you have to observe up, you have to ask the history to that particular fellow. So that is there in this table. You obtain the history regarding all these points which I have discussed up. And obviously if somebody comes up, obviously you will give the symptomatic therapy, empirical therapy. You will give mostly the fluoroquinolones or macrolides nowadays. Okay, you will go for this ORT, that is the ORS and stuff, and then you will like assess up the severity also, and then when the patient gets stabilized, then only you will obtain history and all. So that history is focused upon which particular thing, that is the important point. So duration, fever, appearance of stool, frequency, abdominal pain, tenesmus, vomiting, common sores, antibiotic use, travel, all this we need to observe up. And in the further workup, you can remember up that you can divide this particular thing in non-inflammatory, inflammatory, which we have already done. Examine stool for parasites, and according to that, you go for these particular entities also. That if the parasite is observed up, go for the anti-parasitic therapy. If you are able to find the inflammation stuff, that fecal leukocytes and all, go for the culture, and consider in this particular entity only what? Clostridium difficile cytotoxin. And if it is non-inflammatory type, continue the symptomatic therapy. Okay, that is empirical therapy you give, and as such you don't go for culture and all in this non-inflammatory one. Got my point? So here only I can tell you that non-inflammatory one is what? Which one? Main one, Vibrio cholerae. And for the Vibrio cholerae, what is the most important test you will observe up? You will go for hanging drop. And hanging drop, what you will observe up? You will observe darting motility. And that's the only one of the emergencies of microbiology. That is the darting motility. Okay, so remember that particular thing, that for the hanging drop you will like observe up in the case of non-inflammatory one in the lab diagnosis of it, and you will observe up all these particular things here. Okay, now guys, if this particular travel history you want to focus upon, then obviously you know that various causes are there of the traveler's diarrhea, and that is a frequently asked question of the PGME. Okay, that is a frequently asked question of the PGME, that what are the various organisms involved up in causing up the traveler's diarrhea. Okay, so this particular beautiful mnemonic is being prepared by one of my students only, Dr. Bharat. Okay, and this particular mnemonic tells up all the causes of traveler's diarrhea in a wonderful way. Okay, and all of them they can be asked. So this particular list is to be remembered. So if you go for this VIP ECG scanner, this is a mnemonic, and VI stands for what, guys? Vibrio. P stands for Plesiomonas, the brother of Vibrio cholerae. Okay. Then he told regarding the ECG stuff, and ECG is the parasites involved here. The parasites is entamoeba. Another one is Cryptosporidium cyclospora, and there is Giardia. Okay, there is Giardia involved up in this particular one. Then the scanner. The scanner is having what? It is having Shigella and Salmonella. First thing. Then you have the C, that is the Campylobacter. Okay. Then you have Aeromonas, another brother of Plesiomonas, Aeromonas. Then this virus is there that is termed as norovirus, which associates with cruise. Okay, remember that, guys. Then this E stands for two things: ETEC and EAEC. Okay, ETEC and EAEC, that is also there. Okay, traveler's diarrhea, watery diarrhea, and R is your favorite, rota. Okay, so this particular mnemonic covers up almost all the causative agents of traveler's diarrhea. So these are the causative agents of causes of traveler's diarrhea. Okay, again I'm telling up, the VI stands for Vibrio, P stands for Plesiomonas, that is the brother of Vibrio. Okay, ECG is entamoeba, Cryptosporidium cyclospora, again that opportunistic fellows, Giardia. Then S is Shigella and Salmonella, Shigella, Salmonella, brother, sister. Campylobacter, the again those fellows SSC have come. Aeromonas, norovirus, okay, virus, norovirus, Aeromonas, ETEC, EAEC, okay, and R is rota. But the guys, the important thing here which you need to remember is that which is the most important cause of traveler's diarrhea, number one. So number one, guys, is ETEC, and don't forget this. And what is ETEC? Enterotoxigenic E. coli. Inflammatory and non-inflammatory, guys. Obviously it is non-inflammatory, and this particular one leads to what? This leads to traveler's diarrhea. Main cause. It is a main cause of it. Okay. Obviously enteroaggregative is also there, but this is the number one, and this is a frequently asked question. Okay, if a person from developed country comes to a developing country like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and if that particular fellow drinks our water, okay, and by chance eats our salad and all, obviously that fellow will be admitted in the hospital, because that fellow will immediately have the episodes of what? Traveler's diarrhea. And that's why these particular fellows, they are said to be not to eat up salads here in India and all, and not to eat up drunk up normal water. You have to take precautions, and they are sort that they should be given very clean water and all. Okay, so all these points are there to prevent up the traveler's diarrhea. They should be given up bismuth subsalicylate. That is also being told up that they should have that prophylaxis before coming up to the country that is having these particular bugs to cause of what? Traveler's diarrhea and all. So guys, remember up, this mnemonic will help you to do the questions in PGI or AIMS, and these are the various causes of traveler's diarrhea. The most important question might be is, which is the most important one? The most important one is obviously the ETC. Okay, this is the most important one. So this is one of the tables. Then another important table which I think is important is that what are the post-diarrheal complications which can be there. Okay, what are the post-diarrheal complications? Another chart from the Harrison. So basically I want to teach up you all the charts of that particular Harrison, so that because the questions are coming out of it only. Okay, they will come out of it in the next pattern. This will more be coming out of it. Okay guys, so these are the various post-diarrheal complications which you find. These are the post-diarrheal complications which you need to remember. Okay, post-diarrheal complications. And in the post-diarrheal complications, the first one, chronic diarrhea, the diarrhea lasting more than 4 weeks. Okay, just now we have done more than 2 weeks, and some says more than 4 weeks also. And if it is lasting more than 4 weeks, then what you can think of? So answer is, you can think of lactase deficiency, this particular thing, small bowel bacterial overgrowth, all malabsorption syndromes like tropical and celiac sprue. Okay, that gluten insensitivity and all that. Okay, so remember this particular thing. And regarding this, the comment is, this particular chronic diarrhea can happen in one person or travelers with acute diarrhea. and the protozoa accounts for 1/3 of cases of this chronic diarrhea. Okay, so remember guys, the chronic diarrhea is one which lasts up more than 4 weeks as a complication of acute diarrhea, and these are the deficiencies which is like associates with that: lactase deficiency, small bowel bacterial overgrowth, malabsorption syndromes, they are involved. Okay, and the comment regarding this particular thing is it can occur in 1% of travelers with acute diarrhea, and protozoa accounts for 1/3 of these cases. Fine. Then the second point is there is exacerbation of the inflammatory bowel disease. Means the person was having IBD and all, okay, and that particular inflammatory bowel disease is being like increased of. So that might be one of the common acute diarrhea, and mostly they associate with what? Traveler's diarrhea. Okay, so if a person from foreign is having inflammatory bowel disease, so the increase in that particular thing can happen up, and this particular one may be precipitated by what? Traveler's diarrhea. Okay, now another one, that is irritable bowel syndrome, and again the same thing occurs in 10% of the travelers with traveler's diarrhea. Okay, reactive arthritis, guys, this was a question in JIPMER, and again it can come to you also. And the reactive arthritis mainly happens to your favorite SSC fellows. Okay, so that is Shigella, Salmonella, Campylobacter, Yersinia. These are the ones involved with reactive arthritis. So there is a joint pain after the infection of them, and the question was having this option, Shigella, that after the episode of shigellosis the person develops joint pain. So this might be a next type of a question. So reactive arthritis. Now guys, this HUS, you already know HUS, hemolytic anemia is there in this, thrombocytopenia is there, and the renal failure can also happen. And obviously they're associated with what? It follows the infection with Shiga toxin producing bacteria. And which particular fellow produce Shiga toxin? Two fellows. One is Shigella dysentery type 1, okay, and enterohemorrhagic E. coli. Which particular type, guys? Mostly O157H7. O157H7, that is the enterohemorrhagic E. coli involved up, and the Shigella dysentery type 1. This particular atypical Shigella that is involved up in causing this HUS. And what is HUS? Hemolytic uremic syndrome. Mostly happens in children. And the adults happens hemorrhagic colitis and all. And this you already know, guys, Guillain-Barré syndrome associates with what? Which infection? Campylobacter infection. Okay, so this particular one mostly associated with what? Campylobacter infection, that is the Guillain-Barré one. Got my point? Okay, so guys, these are the complications of the diarrheal episodes, acute diarrhea, and it can change into chronic diarrhea. More than 4 weeks it can happen up. These are all the things they can associate with lactase deficiency, small bowel, malabsorption stuff, and might be there is an exacerbation of inflammatory bowel disease, and irritable bowel syndrome can also happen up. Mostly happens in traveler's diarrhea stuff, reactive arthritis, HUS, and Guillain-Barré. So these all you need to remember as a post-diarrheal complication. Another chart in the Harrison. Okay, guys. Now, guys, talking about this food poisoning chart. Okay, so this particular food poisoning chart is another coal mine for the questions which you need to remember. So we'll just go in a faster mode regarding them. That incubation period 1 to 6 hours. This particular one, yesterday also we talked about Staph aureus and Bacillus cereus. These two fellows are there 1 to 6 hours. Okay, and what are the features? Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, NVD. NVD means nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. In the staph, what is involved up? There is an involvement of ham, pork, poultry products, potato, egg salad, mayonnaise, cream pastries. So basically contaminated meat and milk. That is associated with Staph aureus. And this one is which one? Your favorite Chinese fried rice. Okay, so that associates with Bacillus cereus. Which one? Emetic type. So basically both of them, they're having incubation period of how much? 1 to 6 hours. Okay, guys. Then you have another one that is 8 to 16 hours, and the organism involved up which one? Clostridium perfringens, which is also termed as what? Welchii. And Bacillus cereus is also there, which is what? Which is actually what? The diarrheal one. So this one is diarrheal one, Bacillus cereus diarrheal one. That was vomiting. Okay, so Clostridium perfringens associated with cramps, abdominal cramps, diarrhea, And this also abdominal cramps and diarrhea, and vomiting is rare, guys, in this 8 to 16 hours stuff, and remember them. And so the preferences: beef, poultry, legumes, gravies, there's involved up. So basically very contaminated meat that is involved up in both of them mostly. Obviously with Bacillus cereus, some vegetables and all, they are also involved up. And this is the third one, that is more than 16 hours. And more than 16 hours, you can see up, guys, the first prominent name is coming up, Vibrio cholerae, which causes what? Watery diarrhea, non-inflammatory one, associates with what? Shellfish and contaminated water, obviously. Okay, then the second name, the brother of the, like, which have the same mechanism, enterotoxin E. coli, which is having two types of toxins, LT and ST, labile and stable. It also associated with the watery diarrhea, the salads, cheese, meats and water. That is another one. Then you have enterohemorrhagic E. coli. Guys, this is inflammatory form of diarrhea. Okay, and the bloody diarrhea happens up here. And the thing involved is ground beef, roast beef, okay, vegetables, and even the apple juice can contaminate with this enterohemorrhagic E. coli stuff. Remember that. So bloody apple juice, the bloody apple juice, remember like that. Okay, salmonella. So this is inflammatory form of diarrhea, salmonella. It causes inflammation, and this salmonella is not typhi. This is associated with contaminated meat and milk, obviously. So that is the beef, poultry, eggs, dairy products. That is the salmonella. No, in fact, they are termed as what? They are termed as NST, non-salmonella typhi, like typhimurium, enteritis, if you remember, guys. Okay. Then you have this Campylobacter jejuni, which is inflammatory one. Poultry and raw milk associates with this also. Then you have this Shigella, which obviously associates with blood and mucus, dysentery, and it happens after eating a potato or egg salad or raw vegetables, okay, or lettuce sandwich. These all things, if you eat up, might land up, obviously contaminated one, you might land up with what? Shigella species dysentery. And Vibrio parahemolyticus, you know, that is a halophilic one, associates with what? Mollusk and crustaceans. That is the oysters, guys. If the question is telling up about the oysters and all, immediately you should go for Vibrio parahemolyticus. That is the dysentery episodes happens here also. Okay, guys. So basically what you need to remember, 1 to 6 hours, 2 fellows, Staph aureus and Bacillus cereus. 8 to 16, Clostridium perfringens and Bacillus cereus. And more than 16 hours, these all names are there. That is Vibrio cholerae, enterotoxin E. coli, enterohemorrhagic E. coli, salmonella, Campylobacter jejuni, Shigella, Vibrio parahemolyticus. So if you remember up these 4 names, rest of all others are in which particular category? More than 16 hour category. Okay, most of the names. But the 4 names, initial ones, if you remember up, then you can able to answer up most of the questions. Okay, guys. Now, regarding the lab diagnosis, regarding the quick lab diagnosis, if we go up here, in the lab diagnosis, remember up, you do a lot of things like wet mount preparation. Okay, you go for wet mount preparation. Then obviously how you do the wet mount preparation, you just take a sample of the stool and you make up 2 types of preparation. One is a saline mount and one is iodine mount. Okay, in that you can see up the cyst as well as the trophozoites. Fine. Then I have told you it is better to go for what? Hanging drop preparation. Okay, you can go for hanging drop preparation. You can demonstrate the darting motility of the Vibrio by this particular one. Then obviously you can go for gram stained smears. In that also you can find out the Vibrio bacteria or some other fellows like Candida and all, they can be also seen. Okay. Acid fast staining can also be done, because if you remember up those opportunistic fellows, Cyclospora, okay, Cryptosporidium, Isospora, they all relate up with the acid fast staining, because they all of them they are acid fast. Okay, and why this is important? Because they all of them they does infection there in the HIV positive fellows. Okay, opportunistic infection, HIV positive one. And if you have more money and all, you can go for electron microscopy and you can find out your favorite rotavirus in that. It is having which type of shape, guys? It is having a shape of wheel with spokes. That is a typical of one. Okay, so that is a rota. In this electron microscope, you can have another fellows also. You can see the norovirus and all that stuff. So that is seen in the electron microscopy. This is regarding the microscopy which you can do. Firstly, you can go for the wet mount preparation. Then you can go for this hanging drop. Okay, you can hang the drop. Then you can go for these two smears, that is gram stain and acid fast staining, and you can go for this electron microscopy, that is a rotavirus. Okay, guys. So this is regarding the microscopy. As far as the bacterial cultures are concerned, up that how to approach of the bacterial cultures. So obviously, any fecal sample which you observe in the routine one in the lab and all, you first of all enrich it. Okay. So for that you use enrichment media, and you use enrichment media which is the typical one used, selenite F broth. This particular one is the best enrichment media for the fecal sample. And you can also use what? Alkaline peptone water. Remember guys, if your medical college is far away from that particular place, you have to transport the media also, and that is done in what? Venkatraman Ramakrishna media and all that stuff. Okay, so that you can also use it. Then after this enrichment media, you can use of the selective medias, and selective medias guys are divided into two types. One is mildly selective, one is highly selective. Mildly selective comes up your favorite one which you answer up in your exams again and again. That is a McConkey agar, and McConkey agar will give you a sufficient hint that it is lactose fermenting or non-lactose fermenting, and that's a very big hint to distinguish between the organisms, like that. Okay, if somebody asks you about the highly selective fellows, highly selective medias, so they are one by one for the various organisms, like TCBS, that is thiosulfate citrate bile salt sucrose. It is used for Vibrio cholerae. Okay, if somebody asks you Wilson and Blair, so Wilson and Blair is used for Salmonella typhi. Okay, Wilson and Blair is used for what? Salmonella typhi. Other than that, you have certain fellows names XLD and DCA. What is XLD? Xylose lysine deoxycholate. Okay, and what is DCA? Deoxycholate citrate agar. So these are the basically the selective media for what? Salmonella as well as Shigella. Okay guys, so remember this thing also. So TCBS is a selective media for Vibrio cholerae, Wilson and Blair for Salmonella typhi, XLD and DCA also you can use for these Salmonella and Shigella. Okay, and guys, can you tell me what is the transport media for Shigella? So transport media for Shigella is Sachs media. Another all India question, that what is the transport media for this particular Shigella? The answer is Sachs media is a transport media here. Okay, and after these all growing and all, you can identify them. Identification of the bacteria can be done using up various techniques nowadays, like you have the machine based like Vitek also, by which you can identify the proper ones. Okay, other than that, you can find the antibiotic sensitivity testing also you can do during the Vitek and all. Okay, and identification is done with the help of various tests, like those na guys, Vimbic, indole, methylrate, Voges Prosco citrate. This can be done. Other than that, you can go for TSI here. Okay, what is TSI? Triple sugar iron test. This can be done. Okay, you can look out for the gas production. You can look out for the H2S production. Okay, all these things will help you to identify the organism more proper. And after that, you can go for what? AST. And what is AST? Antibiotic sensitivity testing. That is what is termed as AST, antibiotic sensitivity testing, by which you can easily find out that which particular antibiotic will work for my patient. Okay guys, remember nowadays most of the things they go in the PCR stuff. So PCR for the most of the organisms is available nowadays. Okay, for the rotavirus, they say it is better to go for rotavirus antigen detection. Okay, rotavirus antigen detection using ELISA. That also you can remember, guys. Okay, that also you can remember, guys. and there is no points in guessing up that the toxin detection in the case of inflammatory one, that is the CDAD, can be done by ELISA. Okay, so you can go for ELISA, and that particular ELISA, what you can observe of toxin A and toxin B, which is cytotoxin and enterotoxin combination. Okay, but basically antero and cyto, that is a combination of them, and by which thing you can detect them by ELISA, or you can put them into cell lines by which you can find out them. Okay guys, so this is regarding the lab diagnosis of this particular one. Now in the last, something about the treatment stuff. So guys, if it is a watery diarrhea and all, it is in the starting only in that table we have written off that if it is just one or two unformed stools and the patient have come to you, so you will just rehydrate that fellow with the oral fluids. You will give that fellow to have the oral fluids. Okay, rehydration therapy, that is ORS, oral rehydration solution is being given up. Okay, and the patient will manage up very easily in this particular entity. But if the entity exceeds up these one or two episodes, it is more than that, one or two episodes, like this particular thing, it is like more than one or two episodes, okay, more than one or two episodes, or even one or two episodes, but the patient is showing what? Distressing enteric symptoms, means that particular one is showing up problem. Okay, problem of what? Problem of all other nature also, like there might be along with that dehydration, like advanced stage of dehydration and all that particular thing and all. So in them you need to give some like tablets also, and in that mostly you use up bismuth subsalicylate only. So remember guys, this bismuth subsalicylate is having a like use in this particular watery diarrhea, that is of more than 1 to 2 episodes, and it is having some distressing features in the enteric one. Okay, enteric distressing features are there, means it looks like the patient is in distress. By seeing up you can easily find out that this is needs to be like corrected beyond ORS. Okay, so in that you will give this particular bismuth subsalicylate, and along with that some says that you need to give probiotics and all that, they also give, but that particular role is controversial. Okay, regarding the dysentery episodes and all, obviously this is short that you will give the antibacterial drug, and mostly the antibacterial drug revolves around the Cipro, that is the fluoroquinolones or macrolides. Okay, so remember guys all these points regarding the treatment stuff here. Okay, as far as that is the like antibiotic is concerned, that the antibacterial drug, that is antibiotic which is like given up for the dysentery and all. So remember guys that the fluoroquinolones, they are preferred up. Okay, fluoroquinolone, they are preferred up mostly, and in that also which one? That is the ciprofloxacin, that is being preferred of. Okay, and the dose of it is 750 milligram as a single dose you can give. That will definitely cure up most of the things. Okay, if this you don't want to give, then you can go for levofloxacin, and in this also you can go for 500 milligram as a single dose. Okay, as a single dose, or other entities or other particular things are also there. That Cipro 750 milligram single dose also can be there, and if you want to give it for a 3-day stuff, then that is also protocol 500 mg BD for 3 days. Okay, and regarding the levo, 500 milligram single dose, this can also be sufficient, or you can go for 500 milligram QD also. Okay, and that can be given for how much time? For 3 days. Okay, so all these are there, and if you are suspecting up, okay, if you are suspecting up that there might be Campylobacter here guys. Okay, if you are suspecting up that in your diarrheal episodes and all, the organism isolated is Campylobacter. And remember, the Campylobacter is mostly found to be resistant to these fluoroquinolones and all. So here, it is fluoroquinolone resistant mostly. So here, you need to go for what? Azithromycin. This particular macrolide you have to go for azithromycin in this particular stuff. Okay. So remember, guys, you go for mostly the ciprofloxacin for most of these episodes as an empirical therapy also. You can use up if you want to use. Okay, but in the dysentery episodes you need to give. So fluoroquinolones are given ciprofloxacin 750 milligram single dose, or you can give it for 3 days also 500 milligram BD. And levo also like the same 500 milligram single dose. Okay, this is single dose, and 500 milligram QD for 3 days as per Harrison. And if it is like sure of that Campylobacter is there in the culture one, and suppose here suppose these all things they are not working off, that means might be Campylobacter, because that is mostly resistant to these fluoroquinolones and all. So for them, what you will go for, this fluoroquinolone resistant, you will go for azithromycin. That is the azithrol or azithromycin. In the children also you can use up, and in the adults also you can use up. And what is the dose here? That is the here also 1000 milligram single dose you can use, guys. 1000 milligram single dose. So guys, in total this much is there in the diarrhea stuff. I have told you a complete approach for the diarrheal ones. I have discussed up all the possible points which can be there according to the Harrison tables. And I suppose if you go up and read up this much in this particular chapter, most of your doubts will be cleared off. Okay, we've discussed the traveler's area, we have discussed a wonderful mnemonic there in that particular one, that is the scanner stuff. Okay, we have discussed those particular classification, that is the non-inflammatory, inflammatory, and the penetrating one. Okay, we have discussed up regarding the post diarrheal complications also, and in them we have discussed up the various next based questions also. Okay, this question can come and all that stuff. Okay, now guys, I would like to ask you some questions. Okay, and now you should tell immediately that what can be the answer. Okay, so now you see, just see the framework of the question. Like a particular boy is there. Okay, like suppose 8 years old, develops severe watery diarrhea. Okay, that particular 8-year-old boy, that particular fellow develops what? A severe watery diarrhea, and gone for how much time? 12 to 15 times. Okay, see the frequency, guys. And there is a vomiting also. There is a vomiting also for the 2 days. Vomiting also for the 2 days. The stool collected has a rice watery type of appearance. Guys, the stool collected is having a rice watery type of appearance. On inquiry, it was found that the 2 others members, see the history. Okay, there is a rice watery appearance. Okay, and the history is telling up that the other members of the same family, they are also suffering of. Okay, others members of the same family, they also have same features. They also have the same features. So guys, tell me, what is this? So obviously the answer here in this particular one, with rice watery appearance, this is a characteristic word here to find out. So obviously we are talking about what? Cholera. Okay, and this is what is the typical presentation of cholera. Rice watery appearance, and the family history is also coming up, and this particular fellow itself have gone 12 to 15 times, and you know that in cholera you have a massive diarrhea. Okay, and the toxin is involved up, yes, but that toxin is not preformed, that forms up in the small intestine. So this also you need to remember. Okay guys, so remember this particular thing, that this is a typical case of what? Cholera. And if at all in the next exam these types of picture comes up, then immediately what you will answer up? You will immediately answer up cholera here. Okay guys, now the next thing is, like suppose a particular fellow have come in your OPD with his or her 2-year-old child. Okay, so there is a 2-year-old child here, with that particular come to your OPD and all, and the parents tell that this particular fellow is having the abdominal pain, this one is passing up the bloody stools, okay, bloody stools, obviously with mucus and all, and the timing, like how much time it had gone, 8 times, more than 3, 8 times that is happening up, okay, 8 times that is happening up, and this is happening since 2 days. Okay, what is the likely answer of this? So obviously this is what, this is a dysentery episode, yes or no guys? Okay, because tenesmus is telling what, that there is an incomplete defecation, okay, abdominal pain is there is a passage of bloody diarrhea and mucus, which is obviously suggestive of what? So this is a typical picture of what? Dysentery. This is a typical picture of dysentery, and the fellow who does it, we have already done Shigella, okay, antrohemorrhagic and all that stuff, they associate with this. Okay guys, now another question. Suppose a particular group of patients, see the question history, group of patients comes to you in your OPD, obviously in the emergency OPD, okay, and all of them, they are complaining of what? Fever, vomiting and diarrhea. That is typical triad, fever, vomiting and diarrhea. And there is a group of patients. Group of patients means they might belong to the same family, or they might have attended a same marriage function, and after that landed with what? Fever, vomiting and diarrhea. And obviously they can add up that there might be a party, marriage party, or some special occasion and all, and all of them, they have come at once with fever, vomiting and diarrhea. So obviously this relates with incubation period and all that. Suppose after eating up, they have come after 4 hours of eating up of any cake or any other contaminated meat or milk, paneer and all that stuff. So this is a typical case of what? Food poisoning. Okay, so that is typical case of food poisoning, and you can just ask up that what you have eaten up, guys. So they will tell you, sir, we have eaten up a cake, we have eaten up this particular Chinese fried rice, or whatever in the marriage party and all. So that is a typical history which you can get of what? Food poisoning here, guys. Okay, that is what is termed as food poisoning. So 3 scenarios we talked about, guys. The first one is watery diarrhea, non-inflammatory one. Second one, we have talked about the bloody diarrhea, that is dysentery. And the third one, we talked about what? Food poisoning. The various formats, the various types of modification which can happen in the next. Out of this, 100% nothing can go out. Okay guys, so you just see up this particular thing twice or thrice and just revise it properly. You will able to answer up most of the questions of diarrhea 1. Okay, thank you so much. I know that this particular video have become very lengthy, so I will suggest you that you just see up into some you break down this, that up to this particular thing I will see, and after that you just break down, and you can see this particular video in the division stuff, and you can have the maximum benefit from this particular diarrheal episode video. Thank you so much.